Hello and welcome to this episode of Coach's Corner. This is the podcast where we talk all things deep in the world of health, fitness, business and mindset with people excelling in their game. My name's Sam Eames and this is episode 25, the first podcast of 2026. Before we jump into it, here's a little something from our sponsors. Do you need to sell business assets or buy equipment and don't know where to turn? Global Business Auctioneers and Valuers can help. With decades of expertise under Director Terry Kirkham, Global offers high-quality valuations, business exit planning, and full asset realisation services from industrial and machinery and vehicles to fleet, plants, specialised equipment, and even hospitality or retail fixtures. They run frequent online and on-site auctions, tender sales, or private sales, giving you flexible, transparent options to get maximum market value. To explore upcoming auctions or talk about your asset needs, call 1300 557 112 or head to globalauctioneers.com.au. Recovery isn't a luxury, it's a necessity for anyone who wants to perform at their best, physically or mentally. With proven recovery tools like saunas, steam rooms, ice baths, massages, float tanks, everything is designed to help you relieve tension, reduce pain, and recharge fast. If you want to improve your performance, energy, and overall well-being, book your session at Staley Wellness Centre today, located at 26 Main Drive, Boccarina, the Sunshine Coast. A weird time of year where you may still be on holidays, but you know they are coming to an end, which as much as you don't want them to, you also need to start planning for next year. Planning on going back to work, getting the kids back to school, getting back to the gym, and by this time it's mid-January and you've forgotten all about sitting down and setting any goals or New Year's resolutions for the new year. So today I want to talk about goal setting, not the woo-woo version where it's a little bit cringy and we have to sit down and be forced to think of something, but just something that kind of actually holds up when the motivation disappears, because it does. This could have been a TED talk, it's not, but it matters. I've never really been someone that sits down and writes goals at the start of every year. I don't like feeling obligated to have goals just because the calendar's rolled over. Honestly, I find it a bit stressful. If there's something I want to work towards, I'd rather start it when it actually makes sense to me and when it's possible, rather than just waiting for some date to roll around. That's not to say that setting goals at the start of the year isn't useful. It's probably the easiest time to track them. It's just never been how I've personally done things. Writing something down doesn't magically make it happen, but seeing it regularly can actually help make it happen a little bit more, and that counts for something. At the end of every year, I do a recap post on Instagram. I talk about I share the things that I've accomplished for the year, achieved, some things that happened, a few things that stood out. And I realised for the first time the other day in 4 years, I didn't actually have anything to post. Actually, it was a bit weird scrolling through my gallery on my phone. The photos didn't really start until probably September. Which really made me kind of think as to why. Which was weird because this is probably the busiest, most stressful, most I've ever worked years to date. And it really made me sit back and think, what the fuck did I actually do this year besides even work? Even though I felt like I did a lot, I still felt like I didn't do enough. I had 3 big goals for this year, and I only completed one of them. Which was actually starting this podcast. Another personal goal that I had was to have this year as my last year playing soccer. And it was to hopefully to win the league, maybe make the finals, and then I'd feel like I could then move on from that part of my life after that and just hang the boots up for good. This time last year, I just started training for High Rocks and it was very demanding on the body, and I was doing a few things around the gym. I started doing reformers and some mobility stuff as well. And on top of the High Rocks training, my body was super worn down. But me being as arrogant as I can be around training, I decided to go back and play for a trial game for soccer that we had on. It was the first kick around game of the season. It wasn't anything serious, just kind of like a get-together game for all the boys to kind of meet each other. First half felt pretty good, felt fit, no niggles, scored a couple goals, didn't really mean anything, whatever. And then in the second half, I twisted my knee the wrong way controlling the ball, kicked the ball and tore my meniscus. That tear pretty much ruled me out for the rest of the year. That was 10 days before my High Rocks competition as well. So rehab obviously went under the way pretty strongly. Also got on the peptides as well, which really helped with recovery. And 10 days after tearing my meniscus in that trial game of soccer, I did the high rocks competition, and my knee had never felt better. So whether that was from the peptides or the way that I reapproached my rehab and my training, that's not me being an advocate for peptides. Definitely do your own research, but I think they definitely played a major role for me getting back in time, ready to do the high rocks competition. Anyway, fast forward a couple months, the team we had was unreal, pretty much unstoppable. They actually went on to win the league and the finals, and I couldn't play. And it was really hard going down every couple of weeks and just sitting on the sidelines, knowing and thinking that I probably should have been out there as well. At the time, it was a pretty shitty feeling, but in hindsight, it forced me to refocus on my own training and put more time and effort and probably mental capacity into my other businesses. And it wasn't until I was driving the other day, everything kind of clicked. Goals don't fail because they're bad ideas. They fail because the conditions change and most people can't and don't adapt. So coming into the new year, I've decided to approach goal setting a little differently. I'm using a few simple frameworks to set goals that actually make sense and give them a chance of surviving in real life. All right, hopefully that writing isn't too messy. I don't have the best of handwriting and I get shit for it all the time. But if it's an issue, I will try and Photoshop it the best that I can in the edit. So if you've worked in a corporate job or maybe back in school or some level of self-development course or something like that, they probably would have made you do a SMART goal framework. So we're going to break down the examples of SMART goals, and then something I literally just made up 5 minutes ago is dumb goals. Okay, so we're going to go through very quickly the examples of our SMART goals, because then I have another framework I want to try and get through as well. So for our SMART goals framework, so S is specific. So that means a little bit more clarification around the sort of goals that we're aiming for. Clarity drives focus. Vague goals create false progress. An example of a SMART goal: I want to earn $100,000 by December 31st next year. An example of a dumb goal: a little bit more vague, a little bit less clarity. I'm manifesting financial freedom. What does that mean? Don't know. So moving on to our M, which is measurable. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. Measurement creates feedback and correction. An example for a SMART goal would be to run a 6-minute mile. A dumb example, or a more vague example, is just getting fit. Next up, we transition onto A, which is actionable. So actionable: no plan equals no progress. Goals require steps and not hope. SMART goal example: train 4 times per week and follow a written program. A dumb example may be just trying to get fit. What does that mean? Moving on to R, we have realistic. Most burnout doesn't come from laziness. It actually comes from unsustainable expectations. Ambition without realism leads to burnout. So an example for a SMART goal for realistic would be work out 3 times per week while maintaining current work hours. A dumb goal would be if you generally wake up at 6 o'clock, saying that you're going to wake up at 4 a.m, train daily while you're still working full time. And then finishing off for our SMART goal framework, T, which is time-based. A goal without a deadline is just a preference. Time creates urgency and prioritization. SMART goal example: save $10,000 by the 30th of June. Dumb goal example: save more money this year. Urgency creates execution. SMART goals give structure, but structure alone isn't enough. Next up, we're going to get into our next framework. Our next framework, once again, I hope you can see that. Righty, next up we got our main framework we're going to focus on. So it's called heart goals. This framework comes from Jim Quick's book Limitless, read a couple of years ago. Great book. And when picking a goal, maybe put it through this framework first rather than the SMART goals, and I'll kind of touch on why. So H obviously stands for healthy. So does this goal support your mental, physical, or emotional health, or does it drain it? Next up, we got E for enduring. So when things get hard, and guarantee they will, life will be very boring otherwise. Does this goal and will this goal still matter to you? Next up, we got A for alluring. If your goal doesn't excite you just a little bit, you probably won't stick to it. Next up, we got R, which is relevant. So next up, we got R for relevant. Why this goal? Why are you picking this goal to work towards this goal? Why now? Why is it important to you now? And what does it unlock? T is for truth, and this is the critical one. Don't set goals because they sound good, look impressive, or meet expectations of other people. Set the goals that are yours. When purpose is clear, discipline becomes optimal. People don't normally quit because they're lazy. They quit because the plan stops working. They rely on motivation instead of systems. Another thing I think people avoid talking about is identity. I think a lot of people are afraid of setting specific goals because they care too much what people care about them, and also that it might not suit their identity that they think people have of them. The goals that stick aren't the things that you do, it's the person that you become. You don't try to get fit, you become someone that trains consistently. I don't think you just work on your mindset, you become someone who protects their mindset and improves it every day. When your goals start to align with your identity, the execution stops being debatable. And here's a final thought on those frameworks. If you don't consciously and continuously set goals, no matter how big they are, you'll still end up somewhere. It may not be where you specifically want to be, but you'll just be living at the result of other people's priorities, habits, and maybe expectations. That's not necessarily failure, that's just drift, until hopefully you can figure out what you want to do or why you want to do it and where you want to go. So being January 1st, 2026, it's probably best to ask yourself, what is this kind of person that I want to become? And what's one small action that I can take this week to prove it? Not next month, not when things settle down, but this week, because momentum isn't built in massive breakthroughs. It's built in boring, repeatable actions done with intent. So we're going to finish off with a little quick Q&A segment. Some of these questions I've been asked plenty of times by clients, members, friends, family, whatever, and then a couple of them I've constructed myself with my own personal opinion on it. So question number one, what if I don't know my purpose yet or my goal yet? I'm going to relate this back to plenty of client consultations I've had. When I ask what your goals are for the gym, the general answers that I get is get to the gym, lose fat, put on muscle, get toned, get fit, etc. And this isn't necessarily wrong, but referring back to our SMART goal framework, S is specific, so we need a little bit more clarity around that. And saying that there's nothing wrong with being vague and not knowing the direction you want to go in, because you do eventually figure out as you kind of get the ball moving. But if you can, and you do have an idea as to why you want to do something, then definitely start small and then start to build yourself up. Start to build up from there. Because over time, you do start to work out where you want to go. So start with direction, not destiny. Most people get stuck because they think they need the full picture before they move, and you don't. Purpose isn't something that you figure out by overthinking. It's something you undercover by doing. Trying things, paying attention to what energizes you and also what drains you. Take action, gather feedback, and adjust. Clarity follows movement, not the other way around. Question number two, how many goals should I have at once? It really, really depends on what we're focusing on, whether it's the gym, whether it's financial, the business, whatever it is. But I think obviously the easiest thing to focus on is having one main goal and then breaking down that one main goal into smaller frameworks as to how you're going to achieve it. And then, so with that one main goal, also having one supporting habit. I think anything more than that, that's not you being ambitious. I think you're just spreading your attention and effort a little bit too thin. Once again, it does vary as to what that goal is. This won't be for every single goal. Most people don't fail because they aim too low. They fail because they try to do too much at once and end up doing none of it well. One main goal gives you focus. One habit can give you momentum. Once those are stable, you can layer more on, but not before. Question number three, what if I fall off the track? Again, first, reset without any drama. Missing once isn't failure, it's information. It tells you something about the plan, your energy, or your environment. Missing twice, that's generally a structure issue, not a motivation issue. Instead of getting frustrated, zoom out and ask what needs to change so it makes it easier to keep this up. Fix the system and not yourself. That's how you get back on track without burning out. Question number 4, how do I stay consistent when life gets busy? Someone that put this very well was actually the last episode with Dana. So you lower the bar and you set that minimum standard, but you don't drop it. Redefine your minimum standards so they don't count on busy days, because consistency beats volume every time. If your goal only works when life is calm, it's not a real plan, it's just an ideal scenario. On a hectic week, consistency might look like a short workout instead of a full session, or 10 focused minutes instead of 1 hour. The win is showing up and not going all out. That's how momentum survives pressure. Question number 5, how do I know to quit a goal, or when is it time to readjust? You quit the goal or you readjust when it no longer aligns with the heart framework, not necessarily when it becomes uncomfortable. I think what a lot of people need to learn is discomfort is where the growth actually happens. If the goal is still healthy, still relevant, still true to you, then discomfort is something to work through. But if it's draining your health, no longer meaningful, or was never yours to begin with, that's not you grinding it out, that's not grit, that's you being stubborn. Quitting the right goal isn't necessarily failure, it's just correction. I think that's a pretty good place to wrap it up. If any part of this resonated with you, take 5 minutes today. Today should be, of all days, the most motivated that you should be to set yourself up, not necessarily for the next 12 months, not the next 6 months, even if it's just this week, this month, quarterly, whatever it is. Today is definitely the best day to get started. So write down one goal with the SMART framework, and then also pressure test it with the HEART framework. If that goal survives both, it's worth pursuing. And if it doesn't, kill it early and move on. Clarity beats intensity every time. And last thing, guys, if you want to stay connected with me a little bit more, I am in the process of building up my 2026 email newsletter. The link will be in the show notes if you want to drop your email in there. There's nothing spammy. There'll be predominantly my opinions on things, my mindset, any issues I've had with clients and how they've gotten through it. It might be a little bit more relevant to you. Obviously the fitness stuff, the health stuff, a couple of gold nuggets. I'll chuck out a free resource if I have it here and there. But yeah, just subscribe to that if you want a little bit more from me. And if you want a little bit more hands-on practice with this sort of stuff, guys, I obviously I'm a personal trainer, so I do have that online coaching platform as well. So whether it's trying to get a basic beginners worthy gym program down pat, or if you're a little bit more intermediate or expert or advanced or whatever, definitely reach out to me. There'll be a couple of sign up links as well through socials and in the show notes as well. So if that's something you want to kind of get into for this year, definitely feel free to reach out to me and I can give you a little bit more information regarding that. If you find value in these episodes, the best way to support the show is by hitting subscribe. It helps me stay motivated, knowing this content is providing value to you, and it keeps the episodes coming. You can follow along on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at Coach's Corner Podcast. We have just hit 100,000 views on YouTube, and the Spotify analytics are fairly up there as well, which is pretty cool. And it helps because then it allows me to then reinvest in better equipment, better audio, better visual. As you can probably tell from this podcast episode, I've upgraded the camera over the Christmas break. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to a big 2026 for myself, my clients, my members, hopefully you guys, if I don't know you. But yeah, thanks for listening. I appreciate your time, your attention, and your support, and see you in the next episode of Coach's Corner. Thanks, guys.